first, let's start off by creating a little glare in the eye. It's very hard to see on this sample here, but most of you probably looking at your eye on your picture, you will see some sort of glare. Preferably, I'm going to put mine like right about here. So I'm going to draw that in. Then what I want you to do is first we're going to shade this part of the eye, and we're going to very just lightly add some value here. I'm not going to color in that highlight, and I'm not going to color in the pupil yet. Just add very light value. Then take your blending stump and smooth that in. And then if you look at this part of the eye, it's darker around the rim, so now let's start adding a little bit of value around the outer edge here. We can always go darker, so I'm going to start off lightly. And then the eyelid creates a shadow up here, so we're going to go darker. Not all the way, but just maybe about halfway. Everybody's picture is going to look different, but as we're practicing, we're just going to go just a little bit down here, halfway. Then you'll take your blending stump and smooth that in. And then maybe I'll add even a little bit darker around the edge here. Okay, now my next step is I'm going to take pupil and I'm going to color that in really dark since that is all black. What I'm not going to do is color in the highlight. I'm going to leave that white. So be very cautious and careful that you're not going to color over that white. You want that to be really, really white because that's the reflection. You always want to make sure your pencil is sharp. If it's dull, you need to sharpen it so that you can get those nice darks going on here. Unfortunately, we don't have the tools that you normally would have in a drawing class, which is all different types of pencils, hardness of pencils. And we only have a number 2 pencil to work with. Okay, so now it's starting to take some shape here. Your next step now would be to get those little rays that you see in eyes. So if you were to start in the middle where the pupil is, and you just kind of casually come out just very lightly. Don't go really dark. You want to stagger some of those lines. Almost like you could barely see them. Almost look like a ray of sunshine here, but just very naturally. Okay, once you do that, then you want to come to this outline of the pupil, or not the pupil, the iris, and start doing that same thing, making these little rays where you can barely see them. Make sure you're really, really light on that. You want it to look natural. If you go really dark, it's not going to look natural. if it tends to seem like it's too dark, take your blending stump and just soften it a little bit. Just barely touch it, but just kind of blend that in. Okay, so now we have the eye. The next step is moving on to the other areas of the eye. Let's start in where the eye is usually white, but if you ever look in a drawing or at someone's eyes, it's not always stark white. There's always going to be some shadows and some areas where it's just a little bit of coloration changes. So now what we're going to do is I tend to thicken up the top lid here to represent some of those eyelashes, because we don't want to go and just draw in eyelashes like this. That looks really unnatural. I usually start by putting a thicker line up above here. It's going to represent some of my eyelashes, and we'll get to those later. But as you can see in this picture here, it's that line that I just created. And then what you want to do is start adding a little bit of shadows, especially in the corners. So I tend to just take my pencil and just apply a little bit of value here. Not a lot. It depends on everybody's picture, but right now as we're practicing, we're just going to play along with this. More up at the top just because of the eyelid that casts a shadow. And then I'm going to take my blending stump and smooth it out. Sometimes it looks like it's too dark. Actually, I feel like mine's a little bit too dark. If something's too dark, I like to tap with my pencil and start to take some of that lead away. I feel like there's too much pencil on my blending stump. That's making it really dark. So if that's the case, you want to take some of the sandpaper and get that off so that you can have a fresh, clean blending stump. Okay, so there's my shadows. And then here where the corner of the eye is, it ends up being like a little bit darker here. Just get that tear duct in. And then sometimes it depends on people's eyes. Sometimes there's some areas in here that are reflecting. So you either can erase it with your eraser or just not apply any pencil there. You have to really look at your particular eye once you get to yours. Okay. So now there is some shading going on above the eye here. So I'm going to take my pencil and just apply just a little bit of shading where I see it. This part where the eye crease is, I'm going to go a little darker so that you can see that that's where the crease is. And then I'm going to, a lot of the times, once you get to this point of shading in the skin tones, you use your blending stump a lot of the times. Because you'll start to form some lead on that blending stump, and a lot of times that's how you end up drawings with that and not even your pencil. Depends on how much value you need. So what I'm going to do is treat this as a shape around the eye here. So now I'm going to start following that shape. My eyelashes are going to come last. But before I put any of the eyelashes in, I definitely want to get all my values and shadows and highlights and everything down first. Because if you end up doing some erasing, you don't want to erase your eyelashes. So that will become last. So as you can see, I'm starting to follow along where I see some value going on. I'm leaving some of the area white. And it's going to take some time. It's not going to happen right away. Okay, so now above my eye, I have my eyebrow here. So I am going to just start trying to add in the shape of the eyebrow. On your eyebrows right now, you probably have an outline. So I'm trying to sketch in this outline here first. Okay, so once you have your outline, you're going to just color in very lightly with the side of your pencil. Start off light, you can always go darker. I'm going to take my blending stump, smooth that in. And now what I will do on top of that is now I'll start with a nice sharp pencil. I will start to add little hair, little pieces of hair. And if you ever noticed on eyebrows or eyelashes or even your hair that they're all going different directions and they're overlapping and all bending in different ways, makes it look more natural. Over here where there's just a few little pieces of hair, in the middle it's a lot more hair, and sometimes there's a little straggle outside of the shape. And just keep little hatch lines in the direction that the eyebrow is going. So now it starts to come down. And sometimes depending on everybody's eye that they're going to be doing, there might be a few little straggles outside here. All right. And then what I'll do is I feel like I have some more shadows going on up here, so I'll start to create those. I might need to add a little bit more pencil. Right here it's a little darker. This is exactly why at this point we don't want to use mechanical pencils, because you're going to be using this side of your pencil a lot to shade. So I'll just continue on and trying to get some more of these values darker, and then take a step back and really look at my picture before I even do anything with the eyelashes. Okay, we're gonna get that far and we will work on the eyelashes a different day.